Okay, so we are back to setting up ADF, right? I figured out the issue with the cloning, why the cloning wasn't working before. So I'll tell you more when let me first start. So now let's say we're gonna get clone the whole ADF here in the root folder of my home. So I go and start cloning. The ADF is cloning, and we need to clone recursively because inside the ADF there is the IDF library itself, and so installing IDF before and then ADF later wouldn't work. So because let's say if I go here, this is our ADF in the inside. If let's say if I go to IDF patches like this, right? And we need to do it recursively so that it automatically pulls everything and install them. Now, why it was failing before is because I was connected to the router and it was resetting the Git connection. Now I've connected to my phone, which has much better download speed. And so now I should be able to download the whole thing. And that's what we're gonna try. So I'll get back once we have the whole thing downloaded. And once it's downloaded, then I will hook up the wires into the board, connect it to the computer, and then we will also set up the VS Code and compile a sample project and run it onto the board. Okay, so now we are back, and this is the folder where I get cloned everything. So inside is the ESP folder. If we look at the size of this and go to ESP and this ADF, right? So this is 3 GB. Inside the ADF is the IDF, and which has examples and all of that. So now we will go to our next step, which should be is to set up the uh, this done. Now we're going to do this. So now we are in the ESP ADF folder. So let's go to ESP ADF folder, and this is our folder. Now we've done this. Now we run the install script, and now it's gonna install the whole thing. Wait for it down the install to complete, and meanwhile let's go into how to set up the VS Code for this. Right, where was this? Our eventual goal, this is we want to make this Google translation work, right? So this is cloud services, the same folder. Now we want to trying to do this. So here is saying use the express. Instead of we will be using the existing setup because we have set this up, and we don't care about the version and stuff. So what I'll do is now I will start VS Code, which is here, and this is how it's done. So let's say if I remove it now, so uninstall it, and then if I quit the Visual Studio Code and I go to Visual Studio Code now, then here we are in the extensions. I will search ESP. This is the IDF. So let's say we go ahead and install it. So it's installing, and then what does it say next? So just download, install video code. There's all the extension which we did. Search for ADF IDF extension, which is what this is, ESP IDF extensions. Install the extension and save configuration. So now let's say if I go to the command palette and say configure extension, so it's going to load the initial configurations, and it's gonna launch it. So this is here. So we have come to this screen. Note using existing setup mode option is only shown if SPI is found the current IDF toolchain. Note use existing setup option is only shown if this. So use existing mode. So it didn't show us the use existing setup. It's showing us, that means it has found all these things, right? So Python virtual are found. So we have done all this, that's why it is showing us. So choose Express, so he's choosing Express for fastest. If we choose Express setup mode, version download, it will download all that. But we did that because we did the git clone, and we did it because we wanted ADF, right? So make sure the IDF path does not have any space. Now choose the location of, if you choose Express setup, pick this system and the Python executable. Choose the location of tools in Python, which is also known as path, which is home expressive on Mac OS and on Windows by default. But ours is not. Ours is home/ESP, right? But I think this is executable. Ours is a folder. Make sure IDF path, but doesn't have any space. But we don't have the IDF path. But this IDF path should get set up when we run this step. Where is that? Why I keep losing this link? So when we do this, it should set up all the paths. So we're gonna wait for this to complete, and this is the detailed roadmap walkthrough. Set up the development environment, Windows, which is happening. Get ESP ADF. So let's see what it does here after we have done this part. So it will be doing this. The ESP ADF Linux git clone, which we did. We just clone and set up the environment. We will be doing this. So this will set up the path. The terminal where you install ESP ADF, run this alternately. You want to, this we don't want to, we want to do this, right? Note that the space within the leading dot in the path you can also create. Isn't this what we ran just now? No, we ran, what did we run? We went to this, we did the install, and here it's only export. This should be the next step here, yeah. So this is the next step. So we'll finish the install and then we will run the export, and after completing the environment variable configuration, you can compile ADF sample project. We should be able to compile this. Switch to the project directory, compile flash by running the command. Then you will see the serial port routine is printed. But we're gonna do this part, and we are not gonna do Python to build it. We're gonna be using the Visual Studio to build the whole thing. So let's wait for the install to complete, which is 32%, and we'll come back to this. Okay, so our last command was to install. So install has run. It has installed ESP ADF tools, and then it's downloading some other stuff, which is GDB, runtime libraries, install ELF, and then now it's installing the Windows specific libraries to compile. I think it's the C++ compiler for some specific thing. Not really sure, but it's downloading, and we are 96% done. Once that's done, then we will move on to the next step, is to export this so that we have the path. So now I always had confusion how to print a path in Mac. The current value of path variable in Mac. Set the path local. So he said just to set the display by typing path, you try to run path variable. So let's say if I just type path here, $path, okay, it does. So that means when this finishes, we will try to see what if all the paths are set. 99%, one more to go, and there it is. It's installing, and now it's installing something else. So we're gonna have to come back after this one is installed too. Okay, so finally the installation is complete, and it is giving me the same instruction that what to do next is to run the export sh, which is also here. We saw that next step is this. So it took a while to actually do this whole setup. If I run it again, you'll see that it has installed all of these things. So installed bunch of, let me see, clear this, and then if I do this, and then you will see, okay, this is not exactly cleared, but it installed bunch of things which include several libraries, like these libraries is installed. And then now let's run the export sh, which should export the environment variables and everything else that it requires. So configure example, so it did, right? So here we are, and what is the next step now? After completing the value configuration, you can compile the ADF sample projects. Now this we will do using the uh, Visual Studio Code in our next episode. Okay, good job so far.